We're making Spitkiss, and it's first of all a platformer for smartphones with one-hand controls, swipe to jump. And second of all, it has like cute comics and a cute story. And it's about polyamory and being in love with more than one person, because we think there's not enough of that in games.
We come from a company that is called Triple Topping that Simon and I founded together. We founded a company after a lot of game jamming and working on small projects together. We went to Splash Jam, which is a game jam on a boat, where we tried to make a game. It was pretty awesome mechanics, also okay graphics, but at that game jam we really decided, hey, let's actually start working together and create a company. So we created Triple Topping, and our first game to release is going to be Spitkiss. We had an amazing team working with us on Spitkiss. So Simon is like the creative head, the mastermind and the programmer. Then there's Anne. She did all the amazing art direction and the cute characters that you can see in the game. Murray helped her along. He drew the design for the spitkissers themselves and lots of assets. Then we had Tools joining the team to make sure that audio and music really fits the gameplay and the mechanics that Simon have designed. We have Morten, who is a really cool Danish story writer for games. He also recently worked on a newly released game, Forgotten Anne, and is working with us in Spitkiss. And then there is actually me. I'm the producer. Yeah, I fix people coffee, I guess.
So the main features of the game are the one-hand swipe controls, which I'm really proud of, which is basically like you've never had a platformer on the smartphone before where you can just play it with one finger and just like swipe like that, and then you can basically jump.
Yeah.
And it feels really good to swipe around, so I'm super proud of that. Then we have the comics, where we have like more than 50 different pages, comic book pages that you unlock throughout the game with this like story about polyamory in it, and it's super nicely drawn. And then we have the levels. Of course, we have more than 80 levels in the game, so there's lots of challenges, and also with replayability challenges in it, so you can go back, play the levels, there's even more content. And there's also P levels, so you can play and swim around in P.
Yeah.
That's important.
Simon had said maybe already, we worked a lot with having cool controls and cool mechanics working well for smartphones. But another thing that was very important for us was to have a strong story to the game. That I guess some players maybe don't care so much about the story, but I myself as a player do care a lot about the story in the game. And in the beginning we knew that it had to be somewhat of a love story. The story takes place both in outside world where Ymer lives, but also inside the body of Ymer. And in the beginning we just knew it has to be a love story. But as talking more and more back and forth, especially Simon and I, we realized, okay, why is there never a love story about open relationships? Like, this is not something we talk that much about. We wanted to have it as something natural and not forced in the game. And we hired Morten, who helped us create the story for the game, and especially I had a lot of long session with Morten in a basement, talking. It was almost like therapy sessions, talking a lot about past relationships. He's happily married, I live in more open relationships. Like, what is the difference? When have people made you sad, happy, all of these things? And sort of within all of these conversations, the story of Spitkiss started to evolve. So today it is a story about Ymer that falls in love with both of their neighbors. And yeah, then I think you will have to play the game to see how Ymer solves being in love with more than one person at the time.
So for the audio and music design, we had a really talented guy called Tools. And the thing he does is he works with the technical part of it a lot, right? So he can do this thing, and a thing he did for Spitkiss specifically was that he made these music tracks where he put different chunks together, and it does so randomly, so the music never feels the same. It's always evolving, it's always ever changing, and it like floats together nicely between the different worlds you have, and the different worlds are like different parts of the body. So it's all inside the body, in the kidney, not in the kidney actually, but in the liver, in the stomach, in the heart, in the lungs, and so we also wanted it to be. He wanted it to be quite like smushy, like those like inside bodily fluid sounds, right? So it's like all like splashy, and he made a lot of the sounds with his mouth actually, just like like this to make it sound really bodily, like using his own body. So I thought that was really nice, and it's very like happy music as well for most of the game, and then it goes like sad at some point, and it goes so the tempo of the music follows the theme and the narrative like quite nicely through the game as well.
The first person we got on the team on Spitkiss was Anne. And that was very important in order to actually create the game, because when we started working on Spitkiss, it was just Simon and I made the art, which is maybe not my strongest side. Like I made a fair try, but having her joining the team really made it possible for us to sort of talk about what direction are we actually going in terms of the art style. And it's a huge fans of Korean and animation and Studio Ghibli and comic books, and she's like this very bubbly and happy person. And I think, of course, that was why we wanted to work with her, but she also sort of impersonated that into the game. So the art style of Spitkiss is very cute comic anime style, with these non-binary characters, joyful colors with a lot of humor and a lot of expressions. We have talked a lot on the team around like, hey, how do you actually make characters so they don't have a specific gender when you draw them? What identify a gender? We made these little art tests and we asked people, is this a boy or a girl? And sort of to see how can we mix it up so it's not like, of course it's a boy that falls in love with a girl and so on. And that took a lot of time to implement that into the art style. And later on, when Anne got really busy with drawing all of the comics, the 50 comics you see in the game, Murray joined the team, and he was really good at picking up, which is super hard to do as an artist, but picking up on Anne's very personal way of drawing and just copy her style. So I don't think when you see the game, you don't see it's actually two people that did the illustrations, but it still has a very personal touch and unique feel to the art style of the game. And I think that's how it's, because of course we worked really well together as a team, and sort of she was good at directing him and he was good at picking up, and that made the art style of Spitkiss super unique and different from what else you see.
I think one of the games that inspires me the most in general is Spelunky, and the other one is Desert Golfing, which are two very different games, but one is about golfing through this like endless desert that just goes on and on and on and on and on, and the other one is a like procedurally generated platformer where you go deep into a cave and find treasures. And when we made the original prototype for Spitkiss, it was very much inspired by these two games, and we wanted to combine them in some way and make like golfing through a dungeon that you go into, right? And I think that's that essence, that like theme, that the essence we had there in the beginning, that has vanished completely actually. But we have kept the mechanics, so the mechanics are the same from what we had in the beginning. So the whole like swiping is very like golfy. It's a very golfy game now, and sticking to walls and sliding on walls and doing that kind of stuff is very platformery. So one thing that ended up happening with the game was actually that we wanted to make it really casual. We want everyone to be able to complete the entire game and play through the story and get all the story beats and like get the whole like enjoyment of the story. So that's there. But then because it has this history of being based on these other games, more difficult games, you have a lot of stuff you can go back, and there's actually a whole like extra difficult game if you go back and play the levels in Spitkiss, and yeah, I enjoy that a lot, that it can be the best of both worlds.